My name is KUMAR. We, in association with VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM and also Udaya News Karnataka, powered by Good Neighbors NGO, are starting a free crash course for the benefit of competitive exam aspirants. So today is the first class. So I'll give you a brief introduction about this class, this series of classes. These classes are going to run for another 2 months, starting today until April 1st. So in these classes, I'm going to ensure the entire syllabus of civil services competitive exams would be covered. It may be for UPSC exams, KPSC, MPSC, PSI, FDA, SDA, or any exams for that matter. So the basic of all the concepts, all the topics would be covered in these 2 months. So this is named as a free crash course for competitive exams by VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM in association with Udaya News Karnataka. This program is inspired by Dr. Subramanian Swamy. So with his noble intentions, he wanted to start this program for the benefit of aspirants from past 1 year. So today the time has come together for this auspicious moment for the beginning of the program. So you will get a motivation speech by Dr. Swamy shortly on this program. So I am the chief mentor of your program, chief mentor DHANUSH Kumar. So I have expertise in civil services coaching for past 5 to 6 years. This is my photo. You can see this, nice and smiling. So you can watch this program online on the YouTube channel of VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM at this link, youtube.com VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM, and as well as on YouTube channel of Udaya News Karnataka, www.youtube.com, by clicking this link. And also you can join our Telegram channel for free mentoring for all the civil services exams, all the competitive exams. So this is the link for the Telegram channel. Going further, so again the same thing. So this program is being inaugurated today. So this is the brief timetable with syllabus of your program. So the classes will be held from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. physically, that is in offline mode, but online will be telecast a little bit later, the same day. The same day it will be uploaded in the said YouTube channels, which I said earlier. So let's briefly go into the timetable along with the syllabus of the program. First, I'm going to start with Indian polity. So it is going to run from 28 January 2022, that is today, till 6th February 2022. In 10 days, in a span of 10 to 11 days, I'm going to ensure that your entire polity syllabus is covered. And thereafter, we are going to move into history. So there I will be doing modern history from 7th February till 16th February. Thereafter, Indian economy, 17th February till 25th February. Thereafter, geography, physical and human geography. It's going to start from 26th February till 5th March 2022. Later on, we are going to move into environment, and this is the dates, and later on into current events, whichever is important for your competitive exams. It may be SSC as well. And also later on into mental ability, that is your quantitative aptitude, logical reasoning. I'm not going to dwell very deep into it. I'm just going to give you some shortcuts, formulas, and also solve few problems. Lastly, with respect to general science. So basically, this syllabus is scientifically designed. So if you open the syllabus of UPSC Civil Services exam, these are the 8 sections you are going to have. So you can join this Telegram channel for free mentoring. Telegram, VHS Education, and also by clicking this QR code. Okay? Okay, fine. So what to expect out of these classes? What am I going to teach you? So this is not an in-depth class. So it may be for freshers or veterans. So how the veterans are going to make use of it? If you have read the entire syllabus by now, if you just watch the videos every day, it is going to revise the entire competitive exam general studies syllabus in a span of 2 months. That is 2 hours per day. How the freshers are going to use this program? Freshers are going to get a peek into the topics which they are supposed to study for the competitive exams. So it may be polity, history, geography. What are the basics they are supposed to study in the upcoming days so that they appear at the exams. So how to make best use of this course? So I will have to tell about my credibility before moving further. So I have given 4 civil attempts at UPSC Civil Services exam, out of which I have cleared all the 4 prelims, have appeared at 4 mains and cleared 2 mains and appeared at interview twice at the UPSC Civil Services exam personality test. So that is my credibility and to teach you. So how you are going to make use of this program? So you are going to either use it for revision of whatever you have studied already, or you are going to get a peek into the topics of all the subjects, concepts clearing. So basically I am going to clear the concepts, majority of the concepts in majority of the subjects. I am not going to dwell very deep into this, but give a brief overview along with clearing the concepts. So this is how you can utilize the course in the best possible way. So beginning with the class, that is today's class, which is Indian Polity. So this is a detail for the next detailed program for next 10 days. So I'm going to basically deal with polity concepts. So starting today, that is 28th January, today I'm going to deal with Indian Constitution, origin, evolution, salient features. Then tomorrow I'm going to deal with fundamental rights, directive principles. Later on, duties, amendments, basic sector, it goes on. So basically, we are going to refer, so what is the source for it for all of you to study? So veterans would be knowing it already. The Holy Lakshmikant, which is a good company for all civil services aspirants. Indian Polity by Lakshmikant. That is the simplest possible source and the best possible source which you can get in the market for covering the entire polity syllabus. So basically what I am going to do in this program is, whatever has been taught in Lakshmikant, entire thing would be condensed, and all the concepts which are there in Lakshmikant that is in Indian polity, would be covered in detail. I mean, briefly, so that all the concepts would be clear for you. So starting with Indian Constitution, let's begin the classes. So Indian Constitution. So first we are going to look at the historical background. Where did Indian Constitution start from? So, though the Constitution was enacted in 1950, it had its inklings in the British rule. So, British rule can be basically divided into two phases. One is the company rule and the second is the crown rule. That is the direct administration by Britain government. So company rule is going to start from 1773. So though the company came to India in the 1600s, that is in with the advent of East India Company. So for the next 150 years, they are going to conquer various parts of India, and they are going to wage various wars with various kingdoms, and they are going to establish a British Indian Empire. So the first act at regulating the affairs of India was enacted in 1773 by the British. So that is called as the Regulating Act 1773. Regulating Act of 1773. So it was done under the company's rule. So what are the features of this act? Basic features of this act. So Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal, and these governors of Bombay and Madras province were brought under the control of the Governor General of Bengal. And then so there was a Supreme Court which was established in 1774, and it prohibited the servants of the company in engaging in private trade. These are the few of the provisions. So next we have Amending Act of 1781, and which is not so important from the perspective of competitive exams. Then the most important act is Pitt's India Act of 1784. So what are the important provisions of this Pitt's India Act? So it distinguishes between the commercial functions and the political functions of the company. So company was having political control over India. That is, they were ruling either directly or indirectly via the kings. That is the political control. So commercial control is what? The trade which they were doing, the revenues, land revenues they were getting from the Diwani rights. So all this is the commercial control. So these two were clearly divided in the Pitt's India Act. Along with this, there was a board of control and court of directors. So these court of directors were designated to manage the commercial affairs. Commercial affairs were managed by the court of directors, whereas board of control managed the political affairs. So both of these were divided. So after this you have the Act of 1786, which is not so important. Thereafter comes the Charter Act of 1793. That is also not very in-depthly required for competitive exams, but starting with the Charter Act 1813, the importance of regulating the affairs of India. So various interventions, various measures taken by the British for the welfare of citizens or the exploitation of the Indians. It starts basically from Charter Act of 1813. So here the trading provisions, trading monopoly which the East India Company had, since who granted the trading monopoly? Queen Elizabeth. She granted the trading monopoly. So that was abolished. So other companies were allowed to trade in India. So after that, over the company, the crown, British crown asserted its sovereignty, that the company is under the control of crown. So you are not an independent entity. So it also, peculiar thing about this act is, it allowed 1 lakh rupees of sanction every year. 1 lakh of sanction for every year for the education of the natives. So educational reforms starts from 1813, Charter Act of 1813. So also the local governments were authorized to collect taxes. So these are few of the provisions. So moving on to the next important act, that is Charter Act of 1833. So here we have Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of India, and we have who was the first Governor General of India? It is William Bentinck. William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. So there was Governor General of Bengal earlier. Who was the first Governor General of Bengal? It is Warren Hastings. So later on, Governor of Bombay and Madras were deprived of their legislative rights. So legislative rights, that is the power of making laws, was taken away from governors of Bengal and, governors of Bombay and Madras, and given to Governor General of India, that is who was sitting at Bengal. After this, so this starts the trend of centralization, which peaks during which act? Okay, that is for you to find out. I will also tell later. So the commercial activities of the East India Company were ended by this act. So it purely remained a administrative political body from later on. So the one special factor of 1833 Charter Act is it tried to introduce a open competition for civil services exam. However, that was not materialized. So later on, the next important act is the Charter Act of 1853. So what do you mean by this charter? Charter means charter prepared in the British Parliament, which is enacted by the British Parliament. It's called as a Charter Act. So here, what are the main provisions of this act, the Charter Act of 1853? So here the legislative functions and the executive functions were clearly divided. So legislative function, that is the power of lawmaking, was for the first time treated as a special function, specialized function for which a central legislative council was formed. Along with this, it introduced open competition for civil services exam, the exam for all of you are aspiring to. This was introduced in open competition. Earlier, it was closed competition. British used to nominate the civil servants. Now it is everyone can attend this exam. After this, the next provision is it introduced for the first time local representation in the Indian Legislative Council. Local representation is what? Was it Indians who were allowed? No. The British who were heading various provinces were allowed to represent in the Legislative Council of the Indian Central Government. That is the Central Legislative Council. So after which the next thing is, the Revolt of 1857, that is called as the First War of Indian Independence, or famously put as the Sepoy Mutiny. Thereafter we see the Crown rule. So Crown takes over the administration of entire India. So thereafter the first thing the Crown does was to enact a Government of India Act. So what is that act? It is called as Government of India Act of 1858. So this act is very important from the perspective of British control over India. So starting from here, till 1947, so it was, India was under the direct political control of Britain. So 1858, what act? What are the provisions? So it provided that India was to be governed by, in the name of Her Majesty, British Crown. In her name, India has to be administered. So the double government, that is Board of Control and Court of Directors, which was established by Pitt's India Act, was abolished. And office of Secretary of State, this office is very, very important. It plays a very significant role in Indian polity for the coming years to come after 1858. So this office was created. Who is the Secretary of State? He is a member of British Cabinet. And there was a council established to assist this British Secretary of State, and later on this council gets abolished in subsequent acts. We will see that. So after that, most important act is Indian Councils Act. Please note the difference. The acts which were enacted till 1857 were noted as Charter Acts, whereas the acts which were enacted after 1858 are called as Councils Act. What is this Indian Councils Act? So we saw that in 1853 there was Central Legislative Council. That council reforms was being done by this Indian Councils Act. So the first act is 1861 Act. What did it do? So for the first time, Indians were made to be associated with the council. So these Indians were members of high royal families, that is Rajas and British supporters, majorly Zamindars. And what was seen in 1833 Act, where the power of centralization had peaked, this was sought to be reversed by the Act of 1861. So decentralization started. The legislative power of Bombay and Chennai, Madras, which was back then, was restored. So, and also certain new legislative councils, that is as in Northwest Frontier Province, were established. So you see so many provisions like this, enacting of ordinance, everything. So this ordinance making power, that can be traced back to the Act of 1861. So 1861 Act made the provision for enacting the ordinance. Ordinance, I believe you know what is an ordinance. It's a form of instrument to enact law by the executive, bypassing the parliament, which has to be later ratified by the parliament within a span of 6 months, or else it ends. Okay. The next important act is Indian Councils Act, that is 1892. So what happens here? So in the central and provincial legislative council, which was there since 1861, the strength of these councils were extended. So legislative council powers were also increased at both the levels. Some nomination of some members were allowed for the legislative council. It's not election, it is nomination. That is, the government used to nominate certain people to these legislative councils. These are the few important provisions. So next comes the Act of Indian Councils Act 1909. So what is the important provision? It is called as Morley, Minto reforms. Lord Morley was the Secretary of State. Lord Minto was the Viceroy. So what is the features of this act, this Morley-Minto reforms? So, so again the strength of the Legislative Council was once again increased at both central and state level. However, I already told you there was a provision of nominating the non-officials. However, so the official majority was ensured even in this, and also deliberative functions like asking supplementary questions. You know, now we have the provision of asking questions in the parliament. So earlier, before this act, there was no provision of asking supplementary questions. So which was especially on budget, which was now allowed. After this, so Indians were first time allowed to get associated with the Viceroy's Executive Council. So first, who is the first member who got into the Viceroy's Executive Council? It is S.P. Sinha. Not as in the movies, but as Satyendra Prasad Sinha. His name is Satyendra Prasad Sinha. So communal representation. This is the most important point of this act. What you saw as the partition in 1947 has its origin here. So communal representation, that is separate electorate for the Muslim community. That is, what is separate electorate? Only Muslims are going to vote for the members who are going to contest, and only Muslims are going to contest in those constituencies. So this is what meant by separate electorate, which is the most important provision of this act. Next comes the Government of India Act of 1919. So what happens in this act? So this act makes a provision for decentralization. I mean, provincial subjects and central subjects were totally divided. So what we see as union list and state list and concurrent list today as its origin in the 1919 Act. So central and provincial legislatures, the respective lists were divided. And at the provincial level, there was a division again at the level of the executive and legislature, as in reserved subjects and transferred subjects. So transferred subjects were to be administered by governor on the advice of the popular ministers, responsible ministers, whereas reserved subjects were at the discretion of the governor. So moving further, it introduced bicameralism at Indian central legislature. What you see as Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that is your upper house and lower house, as its provision again in the Act of 1919. So in this way, this act becomes one of the most important acts. So 1919 Act gave way for formation of lower house and upper house, that is bicameralism. Then comes the provision of, so executive council was expanded. The number of members in the executive council was expanded, and communal electorate, which was extended to Muslims in 1909, was extended to Christians, Sikhs, and for the first time the power of voting, the provision of voting was allowed for the citizens, but voting was very limited. So based on property, the amount of tax or education, voting was allowed. So it also, whatever the commissions, State Service Commission or the Central Service Commission, Public Service Commission, that is the UPSC. So this act had the provision for establishing the Public Service Commission. So after this, to review this act in 1927, we have 1927 and 28, we have the arrival of Lord Simon Commission, who takes views from various quarters of the Indian society, meets various people and checks how the Act of 1919 is working and submits a report to the British Parliament. So what happens after this? We see the round table conferences occurring in England. Round table, how many conferences happen? 3 conferences, RTC 1, RTC 2, RTC 3. 1930, 1931, 1932, 3 years. So Congress attends only RTC 2, headed by Sri Mahatma Gandhi. Next comes, so here we have a Communal Award, which is the most important thing. What happens in this Communal Award in 1932? So British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald allows separate representation for Indian Dalits. So the separate electorate, which was extended to Muslims, Sikhs, Christians earlier, is now also extended to Dalits. So after which Mahatma Gandhi opposes this, and there was a agreement between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi under the Pune Act and Pune Pact, sorry. So they agree for reservation of seats rather than separate electorates. So moving further, we have Government of India Act. So this is the most important act when it comes to making of the constitution. So what we see India as a federation as its origin in this act. So it has provision for federal subjects and provincial subjects. Federal subjects and provincial subjects. Diarchy, which was established in the provinces, that is reserve subjects and transfer subjects, were abolished. However, it was introduced at the central level. Then after that, bicameralism, that is upper house and lower house, which was there in the central level, was introduced in the state legislative assemblies of 11 provinces. Today, how many states have bicameralism, that is upper house and lower house? How many states? There are 6 states. What are they? Find it out. Okay. Next comes. So the Council of India, for the Secretary of State, which was established in the Act of 1858, Government of India Act, was abolished. So it extended the franchise. The voting power was extended and approximately 10% of the people got voting rights. And also Federal Public Service Commission was established, and also this RBI, or Reserve Bank of India, also has been established by this act. So however, major part of this act did not come into existence because the princely states did not agree to join the federation. Later on, the most important act is Indian Independence Act. So what this act does, this act majorly ends the British rule in India. It gives independence to 2 countries, India and Pakistan. So it has a provision for partition of the India into independent dominions. It abolished the office of Viceroy and transferred the power to Governor General of India. Who was the first Governor General after the office of Viceroy was established? So Mountbatten continued to be the Viceroy the Governor General. Later on, our C. Rajgopalachari, he becomes the first Governor General of India after the office of Viceroy was abolished. Later on, so constitutional assemblies were empowered to become the legislative assemblies of both the countries. So that is one. So they can draft the laws till the constitution is established. Later on, Secretary of State office, which was established in 1858, was abolished. Later on, paramountcy of the British paramountcy was abolished, and freedom was granted to the princely states to join either India, Pakistan, or to remain independent. So, after this, British monarchy were denied right to veto bills passed by the Indian Parliament. So, these are certain important provisions with respect to the Act of 1947, Independence Act. So thereafter we have the interim government headed by Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, which was formed in 1946. Even Muslim League gets into it, headed by Liaquat Ali Khan, and who heads the finance department. Later on, after the independence, first cabinet is established under Sri Jawaharlal Nehru after the partition. So this is the complete historical background under company rule and crown rule and after your independence. So let's move into the constitution itself, how it was formed. So making of the constitution. So first of all, demand. Where did the demand come from? So it starts in the 1920s. It may be in the, it may be by this Nehru report. Before the Nehru report, both the Jawaharlal Nehru and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel asked for a constitutional assembly, and Nehru report was the first try at forming a constitution. So basically, even this communist headed by M.N. Roy also asked for constitutional assembly. So the first inkling of a constitutional assembly was given by, the provision to establish was accepted first by Cripps mission, Cripps proposal, August offer, Cripps proposal by Stafford Cripps in 1942. Stafford Cripps. So later on, cabinet mission comes in 1946. Cabinet mission comes in 1946. They allow for this formation of cabinet. So here, this is where the demand started. Later on, what is the composition of this Constitution Assembly? See, at that point of time, there were three kinds of constituencies. That is, one is where the Hindus were in majority. Second, where the Muslims were in majority. And the third constituency is the princely state. So all of them had to be represented in the Constitution Assembly. So before independence, even Muslim League had representation in the Constitution Assembly. After independence, they withdrew from the Constitution Assembly. So it had 296 seats totally for the British India and 93 seats for princely states. So the composition was roughly 1 seat was given to 10 lakh people. For 10 lakh people, 1 seat was allotted. So each seat was to be divided into 3 sections in British India, not in princely states, that is Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs, into 3 communities. So it is actually not Hindus in specific, it is Muslims and Sikhs were specific, others were treated as general, who were majoritarily, the major part was Hindus. And later on, each community was having its own representation. So even the princely states were allowed to nominate their nominate their candidates to the Constitution Assembly. So, after this, how did this Constitution Assembly work? So, first of all, before independence, first the objectives resolution would be released by Sri Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in 1946. What is this objective resolution? So, it gives a brief framework about how the Constitution should be. It's like before building a building, we form a plan. Likewise, before forming the Constitution, this objective resolution is a blueprint as to how the Constitution of India, free India, should be. So, that is the objectives resolution. It was given in 1946 by Jawaharlal Nehru. So, what does it say? So, it says the resolve of India to remain a sovereign country, not to be ruled by anyone. And it takes into account all the constituencies, that is princely states, Muslim majority provinces and Hindu majority provinces. So, what does it say? So, it says the power of the representatives would be derived from the whom? People of India. The Constitution derives its power from the people of India. And it says justice, equality, liberty would be guaranteed to the people of India. So, adequate safeguards would be given for minorities, tribals and other such sections. After this, it says, it basically has a brief idea about what kind of country India should aspire for, being such an ancient country with such rich cultural heritage. What kind of a country should India have? It's like they have aims and aspirations. What should India be? That is what is given in your objectives resolution by Sri Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So, after this objective resolution, the few basic framework of the forming of Constitution would be changed after forming of the Independence Act, that is 1948. That is, the legislative powers will also be given to the Constitution Assembly, power of making the laws. So, what are the functions that was done by this Constitution Assembly? So, Constitution Assembly does some function. One is legislative function, other is forming the Constitution of India, and it ratified India's membership at Commonwealth of Nations. It adopted India's national flag. It adopted India's national song, national anthem. It elected the first president of India, Sri Babu Rajendra Prasad. So, all these functions were performed by the Constitution. Next comes, so this Constitution Assembly worked through committees. So, it's a vast body of 296 members, including the princely states 389. So, this vast body could not come together again and again and deliberate over making the Constitution. Also, the kind of members that we had, they did not have expertise in framing the Constitution, but they were the representatives of Indian people. So, what the Constitution makers did, they formed various committees. What are the committees? So, we have major committees and minor committees. Certain major committees take up major work, the area of major work. That may be Union Powers Committee, or it may be Union Constitution Committee, or it may be Drafting Committee, Advisory Committee, so many other committees. Then we have minor committees. Minor committees means House Committee, Order of Business Committee, Finance and Staff Committee, which deals with minor issues. So, most important committee of all this is the Drafting Committee. Who headed it? It was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, modern Manu, father of Indian Constitution. So, who were the other members? The other members were N. Gopal Swami Iyengar, Alladi Krishna Swami Iyer, Dr. K. M. Munshi, Syed Mohammad Sadullah, and we had N. Madhav Rao and T.T. Krishnamachari. So we basically have the composition of Hindus, Muslims, North Indians, South Indians, Dalits, upper caste, lower caste, everyone in the drafting committee as well as in the Constitution Assembly. So moving further, enactment of the Constitution. When was the so we celebrated yesterday, day before yesterday, we celebrated the Republic Day, 26th of January. But that was not the day of enactment. Enactment was done on. So we celebrate from past few years. After 2014, we are celebrating Constitution Day. What is the Indian Constitution Day? It is 26th of November 1949. So on this day, the Constitution was finalized and enacted. Few provisions of the Constitution were enacted on this day itself. That is 26th November 1949. The provisions were like Preamble, articles, certain articles, fundamental rights and everything. However, major part of the Constitution was enforced after January 26, 1950. That is the day when the Constitution was commenced into operation. So that is when the Constitution was enforced in the democratic polity of India, Indian Republic. So after this Constitution Committee has lot of criticism by various experts. So they say this was not a representative body. Only the upper classes were, or the richer sections were having control over this body. Next criticism is this is not a sovereign body. It was enacted by the British. The third criticism is it is, so you know, USA Constitution was formed in how many days? 4 months. Indian Constitution more than 4 years. So it was, all the members were by, the another criticism is it's a Congress Constitution. All the members were by Congress. No other major representation. And most of the members were lawyers. So another criticism is domination of Hindus. So these are certain the criticism of the Constitution. So we have a Hindi text of Constitution which was enacted later on by Amendment Act of 1987. This Hindi text was has the same authority as the English text. So it is having the same authority and enforceability as the English text of the Constitution. So what are the salient features of our Constitution? So in the Constitution, certain facts you can listen to. So we had representation of all the communities, all the parties, all the areas, provinces, and so basically it was a multi-representative body. So what are the salient, next part is what are the salient features of the Constitution. So salient feature is Indian Constitution is the lengthiest written constitution in the world. It is the lengthiest written constitution. And it is drawn from various sources. I am going to tell you the sources later on. Exactly. So, and it has a feature of blending of rigidity and flexibility. So rigidity as in the basic structure of the Constitution, flexibility as in the provision of amendability through 368 or outside it. Later on, it has a significant feature of federal system, enacting a federal system with unitary bias. We have so in Article 1 of Indian Constitution, what does it say? It says India is a union of states. It doesn't say India is a federation of states. India is a union of states. That is what is said by. But We are a federation with unitary bias. Then we have a parliament, we have enacted a parliamentary form of government. So what is meant by parliamentary form of government? We are going to look into in the upcoming classes. Then we have a synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. That is separation of power, power of checks and balance is there. So we have a provision of integrated and independent judiciary. So we have fundamental rights, DPSPs, fundamental duties, which I am going to cover in further classes in detail. So we have a secular state, which is already there in our preamble. India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And we have provision for universal adult franchise. That is, what do you mean by universal adult franchise? Every individual who are above the age of, what is the legal age for voting? 18 years. Every individual, it may be poor, rich, Dalit, upper caste, men, women, whoever it is, urban, rural, above 18 years, universal and adult, has the right to exercise their franchise. That is, they have the right to exercise their vote. So earlier, the voting age was 21 years, which was later reduced to 18 years. So this was done by the 61st Constitution Amendment in 1988. Okay. So I already said fundamental rights, fundamental duties and directive principles of state policy. What do you mean by that? So these are certain things which form the core of the Constitution. Fundamental rights means these are the basic rights which the Constitution gives the Indian citizens, as well as the certain provisions for also for the foreigners. Fundamental duties, duties for Indians. Directive principles, directs the state to have involve certain principles, use certain principles in its day-to-day administration, as well as enacting of laws. Then we have the provision of single citizenship. So USA has double citizenship, but India has the provision of single citizenship. Next, we have provision for independent bodies. What are the independent bodies? CAG, UPSC, Election Commission these are few of the independent bodies. And we have one of the few democratic constitutions in the world to have emergency provisions within the constitution. Then we have a three-tier government. What is three-tier government? Central government, state government, then local government, that is Panchayat Raj and municipalities, that district and village level. Then comes, we have also provision for cooperative societies. So apart from this, certain criticism about the features of the constitution is also there. What are the criticism? They also say, we can include it in the criticism there itself. Indian constitution is a borrowed constitution. So Ambedkar ji says, Indian constitution was formed after ransacking all the constitutions of the world. So it has borrowed good provisions of all the constitutions. So it is also, we have the provision for, we call this constitution as a carbon copy of 1935 Act. That is copy of 1935 Government of India Act. So this act is also called as un-Indian because it was this constitution, because we are taken it from everywhere and also influenced by the British acts. And un-Gandhian constitution, who says this? This was said by J.C. Kumarappa, who was an ardent follower of Gandhiji, who's also Kengal Hanumantayya. They say this is a un-Gandhian constitution. Had Gandhi been alive, he would not have approved this constitution. And this constitution is also called as elephantine size. That is very big. 395 plus articles, 12 schedules, 22 parts, so much big size. So, and it also said paradise of lawyers. Only lawyers have done this, no other section of society. Okay, these are the, so how many parts that Indian constitution has? It has got 12 parts. How many articles? 395 plus articles. And we have how many schedules? We have 12 schedules. And as I earlier said, I'm going to tell the sources from where Indian constitution is borrowed from. So, the first major source is Government of India Act 1935, from which we have borrowed the federal scheme, judiciary, public service commission and other things. So, from British government, British constitution, what have we borrowed? We have borrowed parliamentary form of government, rule of law, that is right to equality, and also citizenship, that is single citizenship, cabinet form of government. Cabinet form of government is also taken from British, the parliament, British constitution, bicameralism. Then from US constitution, what have we borrowed? We have borrowed fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, rigidity in the amendment of the constitution, judicial review and removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges. This is taken from US constitution. This is very important. What provisions is taken from which constitution? They are going to ask a direct question in prelims as well as in various competitive exams. Next comes Irish constitution. Your DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, is largely taken from Irish constitution, which in turn takes it from some other constitution of some other country. So, we nominate 12 people to Rajya Sabha, right, who have expertise in arts, social service and so many other things. So, that is taken from Irish constitution. So, Canadian constitution, what have we borrowed? A federation of states with strong center. It is taken from Canadian constitution. And vesting of residuary power, whatever the power is not there with the states and this, in the state list or in the central list, union list, whatever the residuary powers, it is vested in the union central government. That is taken from Canadian constitution. Then Australian constitution, what have we taken? The provision of concurrent list, provision of free trade and commerce, and also joint sitting of the parliament. Joint sitting provision. I am going to discuss it later on. Then Weimar constitution of which country? Germany. Weimar constitution of Germany. Emergency provisions and taken from Weimar constitution. So, remember emergency, German constitution. Emergency provisions are taken from German constitution. Soviet constitution. Soviet constitution is what? Present day Russia. Earlier it was called USSR. So, USSR constitution, what is taken? Fundamental duties majorly, and also the ideal of justice in the social, economic and other spheres. French constitution, the idea of a republic, ideals of liberty, equality, liberty and fraternity is taken from French constitution. South African constitution, what have we taken? South African constitution, we have taken the provision of amendment of the constitution and election of members of the Rajya Sabha is taken from South African constitution. Japanese constitution, what have we taken? Procedure established by law. So, we follow procedure established by law, whereas US follows due process of law. That these are the sources. Sources I have discussed in detail. So, next comes the preamble part. So, which is the most important part. So, for your benefit, I have included the Indian preamble. in picture of Indian preamble. So this is a picture of Indian preamble. What does it say? The text say, we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constitution Assembly, this 26th day of November, I told you earlier. So this is the day of enactment of Constitution. So this is what is called as Constitution Day today. 26th is the enforcement. Do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this beautiful Constitution. So beautiful is not mentioned. I just said it because of the out of love for the Constitution. So this is the exact pictures which is printed in the Indian Constitution. So this West Bengal art school, Nandalal Bose, whoever were there, the artists, Abanindranath Tagore, Nandalal Bose. So these people, these artists were involved in designing the diagram, I mean the figures for preamble as well as the Constitution. So this is the exact picture of the preamble. So I have discussed the text. Now let us move. So what are the ingredients? The ingredients of the Constitution, it says, first of all, the preamble says, where we derive the power from. We derive it from people of India. Second is the source of, that is source of authority. Nature of Indian state. What is the nature? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. That is the nature of Indian state. Then objectives of the Constitution. These are the objectives. So later on it says date of enactment. Adoption of the Constitution. So this is the date of adoption of the Constitution. So next comes, what are the key words in the, what are the key words in the Constitution? So sovereign. Sovereign means India is not being ruled by any other country. We are on our own. We are our own identity. No other country can establish suzerainty over us. So it's a political concept. Socialist. Socialist means what? It's a economic concept. That is the kind of society we aspire to. That is social equality, economic equality. No division among the public based on caste, class and economic power. So this word socialist was adopted by 42nd Constitution Amendment, that is, which is also called as the mini constitution. So secular, this word was also adopted by 42nd Constitutional Amendment, which is also called as the mini constitution as said earlier. Secular means what? The state does not endorse any particular religion, whereas on the other hand, state gives equal support to all the religions. Whatever religions are there, the government. State means what? State means Indian state. It's a political concept. So it includes the government, it includes the judiciary, it includes the various organs of the government, independent bodies. It also includes the PSUs. So we are going to discuss the meaning of state under Article 12 when we come to fundamental rights. Okay. The next thing is democracy, democratic. Democracy means what? Power by the people, of the people and for the people. That is what is meant by democracy. So we have direct democracy and indirect democracy. What kind of democracy are we? Are we direct or indirect? So we are following representative democracy. That is, indirect democracy. We elect our representatives who form laws and exercise power on our behalf. So, direct democracy is practiced in Switzerland. Now we have this Haryana government enacting the provision of direct democracy, that is recalling the elected representatives, which is a good sign and shows evolution of Indian polity, Indian democracy. Next, republic. What do you mean by republic? Republic means we celebrated republic recently, but 90% of the Indians doesn't know the meaning of republic. So republic means the power of the country is lays in the hands of the people, and republic means it is the country is not headed by any crown, no hereditary access to throne, whereas we elect our president. So we are headed by a president who is elected by the people of India. That is what meant by republic. Another meaning is all the public offices are open to everyone. That is also the one of the meanings of being called as a republic. So next comes the concept of justice. Under justice we have economic, social and political justice. So the economic justice means establishing equality, political justice means giving equal political opportunity, social justice means establishing equal treatment for giving equal treatment for all citizens. So liberty means what? Liberty means freedom. Individual is allowed to do whatever he or she wants to do, subject to certain conditions. There are certain conditions which you have to satisfy to exercise your liberty. So liberty is liberty of thought and speech and expression. So it is being taken from French Revolution, the idea. So next comes the idea of equality. Equality before we do see it in fundamental rights, that is from article 14 to 18 and under various provisions. Every individual is equal no matter what. So government has to treat everyone equally, those who are equally situated. However, we have evolved into a concept of equity, that is those who are not equally situated, that is poor and others, would be treated differently so as to establish equity, which is the real form of equality, right? So next comes the idea of fraternity. Fraternity means, you just remember one word, brotherhood. Brotherhood among all the Indians is called as the idea of fraternity. Next comes the idea, what is the significance of this preamble? So most of them said this preamble is just an idea of aims and aspirations. There is no requirement of adding this preamble. It is also not justiciable. You cannot claim your rights based on preamble. Also, many members of the Constitution Assembly were against including this preamble. However, some members said it acts as an identity card of the Constitution. Some members said it acts as a content part of the Constitution and various other things. Whereas later on came the question of status of the preamble. What is the status of this preamble? Whether it is a part of Constitution or it is not a part of Constitution. So in Berubari Union case, the Supreme Court held that preamble is not a part of Constitution. However, in the famous Keshwananda Bharti case, that is 1973, 24th April, which happens to be whose birthday? Sachin Tendulkar's birthday. On that day, so Keshwananda Bharti ji who's a seer in Kerala, passed away recently in 2020. So you can expect a question this year on Sri Keshwananda Bharati case. So 1973 case, what did the Supreme Court say? Preamble is a part of Constitution overruling its earlier ruling in Berubari Union case. So coming to amendability, that is whether preamble can be amended. So starting in Berubari Union, they said it can't be amended. Later on they said in Keshwananda Bharati it can be amended. However, now it stands that it can be amended. There was already an amendment done by adding the idea of socialist and secular in, by which amendment? 42nd Amendment. Next comes the concept of union and its territory. That is, India as a, earlier I told, Article 1 says, India as a union of states. We are not a federation of states. We are a union of states. So there was various debates in the Constitutional Assembly whether we should form it a federation of states or union of states. So this union can be classified into three areas. One is territories of the states, that is individual state, that is state of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, these states. And we have union territories who are centrally, which are centrally ruled by the government, central government. And we have the territories that may be acquired, territories that may be acquired by the territories that may be acquired by the Indian government at any stage. Any stage we can acquire certain territories. So that is there in Article 1. There are three types of states. One is the states of the Indian polity. Second is the states, that is the union territories. Third is the territories which the government of India can acquire at any time. We have acquired certain territories. For example, the Bangladesh land boundary agreement. We gave certain territories and we also took some territories from Bangladesh. So next comes reorganization of states. So here there are two provisions. One is under Article 2, the Constitution allowing of establishment of new states which are not part of India. That is, it can be done in two ways. That is, first is admitting the new states into India and the power to establish new states. So this article majorly deals with that territory which are not part of India already. So if some territory is not part of India, if you admit it into the territory of India, for example, Sikkim was admitted in this fashion into the territory of India. It can be done by Article 2. So there was also an article called Article 2A, which was later abolished. It was with respect to Sikkim. Next comes the Article 3, which is power of reorganization of states. How to reorganize the existing states within the territory of India. which was the latest state which was reorganized? So Jammu and Kashmir was reorganized into 2 union territories. Before that, Andhra Pradesh was reorganized in 2012 into state of Telangana and state of Andhra Pradesh. So that was done by Article 3. So what is the procedure? So under Article 3, there are many provisions. So few of the provisions I am going to read out. First is formation of a new state. A new state can be formed by separation of a territory from any state. Any state, you take a new territory and form a new state. Just like how they did it in the case of Andhra Pradesh. Increase the area of any state. You can increase any area of any state, diminish the area of any state, alter the boundary of any state, and also alter the name of any state. For example, in 1973, the state of Karnataka, which was earlier called as a Mysore state, was renamed as the state of Karnataka. It was done under Article 3, under the provisions of Article 3. How does this work? How does this provision work? So here, first, President is going to refer the, so first, should it be done by special majority or simple majority? I am going to talk about the various provisions of various types of amendments later on in tomorrow's class. Should it be done by special majority or simple majority? So, in simple majority, if Parliament passes a resolution. So, first, what does the first? President refers it to the State Legislative Assembly. So, if State Legislative Assembly, so State Legislative Assembly actually doesn't have any power. So, they can agree to it or they can disagree to it. Okay. So, after that, the Parliament passes the bill. Once the Parliament passes the bill by simple majority, it will be given to the President. If the President assents to the bill, the states stands divided. That is how the state of Andhra Pradesh was divided. So the basic procedure is prior recommendation. So first, the bill has to be, so it cannot be done by the opposition. So first, the President has to refer the bill to the Parliament. Before doing so, he is going to refer it to the State Legislative Assembly and wait for their opinion. Whether they agree or disagree, later on, he allows the Parliament to take up the amendment. Once they amend it, the states stand divided once the President gives the assent. So, next comes, I am going to discuss some current affairs also in the recent past. That is the exchange of territories with Bangladesh, under which act? Under Constitutional Amendment Act. I am going to discuss amendment acts in detail tomorrow, how to amend the constitution. So, Constitutional Amendment Act 100, which was done in 2015. So, Bangladesh was earlier under the rule of Pakistan. It was a part of Pakistan. Post creation of Bangladesh in 1971, of which they celebrated the Amrut Mahotsav, that is 50 years of formation of 50 years of formation of Bangladesh. After they celebrated it, so this exchange of boundaries, it dates back to 1974. Then only the agreement between India and Bangladesh had taken place to settle the boundary between. So there was certain Enclaves. Enclaves as in Indian territory was in, suppose this is India. I mean, this is India, this is Bangladesh. Certain Indian territories used to be in Bangladesh and certain Bangladesh territories used to be in India. So, and also apart from this, there were certain part of the boundary which was not demarcated. So, all these issues were sought to be resolved via the land boundary agreement. So, the agreement was first sought to be enacted in 1974, but unfortunately various political issues it was enacted in. So, India gained how many hectares of land? Some 50 odd hectares of thousands of hectares, and they So, India gained some 50 odd enclaves. So, these are called enclaves. Indian enclave, Bangladesh enclave. So, India gained some 50 odd enclaves, some 47, around some 47 or something, whereas Bangladesh gained 111 enclaves from India, and also some 6 kilometers of boundary which was not demarcated was demarcated by the 100th Amendment Act. So, next we come to the concept of emergence of new states. Emergence of new states. What are the new states that has emerged? So, first we are going to discuss evolution, how the states were at independence. During independence, once the British left, after this, first we have to go back to the cabinet mission plan. So, cabinet mission plan divides the states into 4 groups. I mean, into 3 things. One is Hindu majority, Muslim majority, and Sikh majority. Sikh, Muslim, and general, along with princely states. So, the constitution groups states into 4 categories: Group A states, Group B states, Group C states, and Group D states. Group A majorly British territories. Group B, what? Princely states. Group C, certain central commissionerates, that central cantonments like Coorg, Bengaluru, etc. And Group D states are what? The Andaman and Nicobar. Those were the sole Group D states. So after that we have, we had the princely states. So princely states were to be integrated into Indian Federation, Indian Union. So the princely states had to be integrated. So what happened? This our Iron Man of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, assisted by Secretary of Home, who VP Menon. So integrated 500 odd princely states into Indian territory. So they signed the instrument of accession except Junagadh, Hyderabad, and Jammu and Kashmir. Junagadh was integrated by plebiscite, Hyderabad by police action, Jammu and Kashmir by instrument of accession. So integration of princely states is the biggest achievement of Sri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, because of which there stands a tall statue of unity in where? On the banks of Narmada in Gujarat. So after this, the issue of princely states were resolved. However, everywhere there was a demand for linguistic states. So this Congress had supported formation of states based on language. 1920 Nagpur resolution supports formation of linguistic based states. Even your Nehru report supports that. Simon Commission also gives positive signals with respect to linguistic states. So later on there was a demand for linguistic states by various states, especially in South India. So Sri Potti Sri Ramulu dies after fasting for 63 days for the demand of Andhra state. Andhra was erstwhile a part of Madras territory. So, immediately after his death, there will be widespread riots. So, government of India would be forced to create the state of Andhra Pradesh in 1953. Before that, there will be various commissions. One is your Dar Commission, DHAR, Dr. D.P. Dar, Durga Prasad Dar, sorry, SK Dar. So, SK Dar Commission, what does they say? They say, based on linguistic principle, formation of states cannot be done. Why? Because it hampers the unity and integrity of India. So, we had the example of partition, which was burning our back in the recent history. So, they rejected the idea, fearing that it would lead to secession of India into various chunks. Later on, we have a political committee. So, this was a commission, whereas a political committee headed by Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel and Pattabhi Sitaramaiah. JVP committee, they also say, no, we cannot form linguistic based states. However, after the death of Potti Sriramulu and formation of Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, everywhere, Gujarat, there is a demand for linguistic based states. So then they form Fazal Ali Commission. Who are the other members? Who are the other members of the commission? K.N. Panikar, H.N. Kunzru, Rudaynath Kunzru and K.M. Panikar. So, they give a formula for formation of states. What is the formula? The first criteria should be unity and integrity of the country. First criteria should be unity and integrity of the country. Second criteria is linguistic and cultural homogeneity. So, linguistic and cultural homogeneity, culturally and linguistically, that particular province should be same. Homogeneity means similarness. Next we have financial, economic and administrative considerations. So, certain part of the states should not be poor and other part shouldn't be rich. So, there should be equality in distribution and economic and administrative also. So, there should be an administrative homogeneity should also be there. That is the third criteria. The fourth criteria is planning for the promotion of the welfare of the people in each state. Each state planning for the promotion of welfare of the people. Welfare of the people is the fourth criteria. So after this, the States Reorganization Act is enacted by 1956. In 1956, and there was formation of 14 states and 6 union territories in 1956. But does it end there? Various commissions is done. 1956 Act is done. So does it end there? No. There is a demand for emergence of new states. So first we see Maharashtra and Gujarat. There is a demand for from Gujaratis to form a new state of Gujarat. So Gujarat was formed in which year? In the year of 1960. And we have Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Goa, Daman and Diu, which were under the rule of Portuguese, right? So in Operation Polo, which operation was Goa liberated? Operation Polo. In that, Goa was liberated and Goa, Daman and Diu were integrated into Indian framework. So, Goa first integrated as a union territory in 1961, 1962 and as a full-fledged state in which year? 1987. Then Puducherry, which was under the influence of French. So French are comparatively good people compared to Portuguese. Portuguese, we had to take a police action, whereas French handed over the territory all by themselves and left India. So 1954 Union Territory of Puducherry. Next, we have the first operation of formation of state in Nagaland. Erstwhile, it used to be called as in the northeast. Your northeast. This is Sikkim. Sorry for this design of map. This is Bangladesh. This is northeast. So this entire thing was called as Northeast Frontier Agency, NEFA. NEFA. Okay. So there we first formed the state of Nagaland. These Nagas demand a separate state. Violent actions were conducted by them. So 1963 first state, which is Nagaland, was formed. In 1966, we see a major change in North India. So Haryana was formed, taking out of Punjab. Punjab was bifurcated. Why Haryana was formed? Haryana, they wanted a separate state for Hindi-speaking people. Hindi-speaking people wanted separate state from the Sikhs. Then Chandigarh was formed as a common capital for both the states, and Himachal Pradesh was designated as a Union Territory in 1966. However, 71 it was elevated as full-fledged state. In 1972, what happens? Manipur, Tripura and Meghalaya. So, what happens in this? Two union territories of Manipur and Tripura. Manipur and Tripura were earlier union territories, which and also Meghalaya gets statehood in 1972. All these three states get full-fledged statehood. Okay. After this, we have the issue of Sikkim. Sikkim was ruled by whom? Chogyals. So later on, people protest and they say, we want to get associated with India. So early we form the Article 2A, as we give it a special status first, associate state, then we take it as a full-fledged state. So full-fledged state in which year? In 1975. 1975, Sikkim was created as a full-fledged state. Then comes in 1987 another major operation in northeast, Mizoram, which was a erstwhile. What was it? Was it a union territory? Yes, it was a union territory. So who was the leader under Mizoram National Front? Lal Denga was the leader who wants the creation of Mizoram, and 1987 Mizoram is created, and also Arunachal Pradesh, including Goa will also be given from union territory to statehood. Later on, post 2000, in 21st century, in the year 2000, under the leadership of whom? 2000, who was the Prime Minister of India? Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So under the leadership of Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2000, Chhattisgarh. So Chhattisgarh was part of which state? It was part of Madhya Pradesh. Jharkhand, which was part of Bihar, was taken out and given a separate statehood. And Uttarakhand, which was part of Uttar Pradesh, was also formed as a new state. Later on, in 2014, earlier I told Telangana in 2014. Actually, the process started in 2012. The process ended in 2014. So, 2014, 29th state was formed. So, the recent is 2019, Jammu and Kashmir, which erstwhile had the status of full-fledged state, separate citizenship for the citizens, separate constitution, everything was divided into two territories. One is territory of Ladakh, another is territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So what happens here? Article 370 would be abolished, Article 35A of Indian Constitution would be abolished, and Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019, very important act because it is done just 3 years ago, not yet asked in UPSC. I am not sure about other exams, but very important for another 5 years. So because when Telangana was enacted, it ran the show for another 5 years. So this will be in the hot topic for another 2 years minimum in competitive exams. So this act is important. Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act and also Constitution application to Jammu and Kashmir order. These two, one act and one order, is very, very important. So how many states are there in India today totally? There are 28 states and how many union territories? 8 union territories. So most of you don't know Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu, which were two separate union territories, were merged into one in 2019 December. So most of you don't know about this information. So lastly, change of names. So Karnataka, as I said, changed its name. Madras was changed into Tamil Nadu, and Uttarakhand changed its name from Uttaranchal. Pondicherry named itself as Puducherry, and also Orissa named itself as Odisha. So we have everything is done by statutory acts. So what are the statutory acts? Assam has got its own act. Andhra State Act is there. Bihar Act is there. We have State of Himachal Pradesh Act, Mysore State Alteration of Name Act, State of Arunachal Act. So along with constitutional change, there are also parliamentary acts should be enacted to change the names of these states or alter the boundaries of these states or creation of new states. Okay, coming to the next question of citizenship. So basically, I would also, after every section, I would also say what are the important articles with respect to each section. So in this section we have Article 1, Article 2, Article 2A, which is already repealed, on Article 3 and Article 4. I already told what is Article 1, Article 2, Article 3 and Article 4 is laws made under Article 2 and 3, which is not an important article. So it's not, Article 4 is not so important. 1, 2 is also not so important. 1 and 3 are very, very important. 2 is of average importance. Next comes the question of citizenship. So what do you mean by citizenship? Today we have so many stateless people, refugees, Rohingyas we have, Syrian refugees we have, Palestinian refugees we have, and also we have refugees of which state? From African countries we have refugees. So there are so many refugees, and there are also refugee convention is being brought up, and also India signed this refugee convention 1951. No, India is not a signatory of refugee convention. So though we have signed it, we have not ratified it. So it is not in force. What do you mean by citizenship? So you are a part of a political entity called country. So that country recognizes you as its own by providing citizenship. how do you exercise a citizenship? By electing your representatives, by demanding of rights, by respecting the laws of the nation, by respecting the national symbols, by following the rules and regulations, by paying taxes. So all these are the essential characteristics of being a good citizen. So the Constitution provides certain privileges for its. So I already told what is a citizen. So opposite of citizen is being a alien from other state, not from other planet, from other state. So here what happens? The Constitution gives certain privileges to the citizens and denies the same for aliens. What are the privileges? Certain basic acts, certain basic rights, like right to equality is available for all, whereas right against discrimination, Article 15, right against discrimination is not available to all, whereas, so I am going to discuss this, what is available for Indians and what is not available for Indians in the next class under fundamental rights. So right to vote, is it available to all? No, only to citizens. Right to contest for membership of legislative assemblies or the parliament or to the post of president and prime minister. Is it available for all? No. Only, so not prime minister, vice president, president, judges of high court. So only citizens can do that. Can foreign citizens become the prime minister of India? That's the question for you which I am posing. Please go and research because it is very, very important. Not from exam perspective, but from your own knowledge perspective. Okay. Next comes, so I have told what is the meaning of being a citizen and how significant it is. So there are various benefits and duties of being a citizen. So what are the constitutional provisions in the Constitution for being a citizen? For being a citizen, we have articles starting from Article 5 till Article 11. So, what does this article speak? So, Article 5 says that who can become the citizen of India at the commencement of the Constitution. So here it says there are 4 categories of people who can become citizens of India in 1950 January 26. So a person who was a domicile in India during independence, or his parents or his offsprings. A person who migrated to India from Pakistan is eligible. So that comes under Article 6. A person who migrated to Pakistan and came back, he is also eligible, Article 7. A person whose parents or grandparents were born in undivided India, but now is residing outside, he is also eligible. So, to sum up, so the person who were within India during enactment of the Constitution are eligible. Person who came from Pakistan are eligible before 1950. Person who went to Pakistan and returned, they are also eligible. And also persons of Indian origin, wherever they are residing, they will be eligible. Who are not eligible as per this constitutional provisions from 5 to 11. So, if someone acquires citizenship of some other country, some other country, nation, if someone acquires the citizenship, then he or she is not eligible. So, if this is told by Article 9 and If I am a citizen for now, would I continue to be citizen forever? Yes. Whoever continues to be citizen, whoever is a citizen continues to be citizen if I renounce it on my own or acquire other countries' citizenship. This is provided by Article 11. Article 10. Article 11 speaks of Parliament can enact separate laws to delineate the provisions of what? Delineate the provisions of citizenship. So, similarly, for this, the Parliament has enacted majorly the Citizenship Act of 1955, which is very, very important. So, recently we had CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act. In 2003 also, Parliament enacted Citizenship Amendment Act and also gave out certain rules. So, for all those acts and amendments and also rules, this is the Mother Act, Citizen Act of 1955. So basically, this act speaks of acquisition of the citizenship. So who all can acquire Indian citizenship after 1950? So Constitution speaks only of those people who acquire the citizenship at the enactment of the Constitution, whereas this act, Citizenship Act 1955, speaks of those people who acquire citizenship after the commencement of Constitution. So whoever is born in India is eligible for acquiring Indian citizenship, provided their parents are Indian citizens. Then whoever has a descent, so that is by his father was a citizen in India, then by descent he will be eligible for being a citizen of India. And by registration, whoever is born outside, but if he registers as being a citizen of India, but to register there are certain provisions that he has to be of person of Indian origin and he has to be resident in India for certain amount of time, and he has to be he or she should have married a Indian. So the minor children of such person will also be able to register as a citizen of India. Next comes by naturalization. If you stay in India for a certain period of time, then you are all eligible to become a natural citizen, provided you fulfill the following qualifications, certain qualifications. What are the qualifications? He is not a citizen of some other country where Indians are prohibited from acquiring their citizenship. Suppose Pakistan doesn't allow Indians to become Pakistanis, India would reciprocally doesn't allow Pakistanis to become Indians. So also there is a condition that yes, served the government of India, all is of good character or is of adequate knowledge. So all these characters are there, so that satisfying these characters, a person can become a citizen of India by naturalization. What did I say? Citizenship by birth, citizenship by descent, citizenship by registration, citizenship by naturalization, and the last is by incorporation of a territory. If India fights or in dispute with any other country, if they acquire certain part of the country, acquire part of some other country, the people who are residing in that part of the country would be eligible to become citizens of India. That is one provision. And also Assam Accord. When was it signed? And so in Assam Accord, what does it say? Whoever came to India before, what is the date? 1971 March 25, that is creation of Bangladesh from Pakistan. whoever came to India before 1971, March 25, are eligible to become citizens of India, is what is said by Assam Accord. This is a special provision. However, one more addition, Citizenship Amendment Act, which is not yet enacted, says whoever came to India before December 31st, 2014 is eligible to become Indians, provided they reside for how many years? 5 years under the provision of naturalization and satisfying the criteria that they belong to 6 major religions: Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, Jains, Parsis, and one more. So if you belong to these religions and follow the 5-year criterion and also the time period, you are eligible to become Indian citizenship. So acquiring, this is how you acquire the citizenship. Losing of citizenship, how do you lose Indian citizenship? One is renunciation. You yourself say to the government in writing that I don't want Indian citizenship. You give it in writing, and when the government accepts it, your citizenship stands revoked. Then the second provision is losing is by termination. The government terminates your citizenship automatically. So when you acquire, or your citizenship gets automatically revoked when does that happen? When you acquire the citizenship of some other country. When you acquire the citizenship of some other country, automatically your Indian citizenship gets revoked. That is the second provision. Third provision is by government action, that is deprivation. It is called as deprivation. When does the government deprive you of citizenship? When you have obtained the citizenship by fraud. When you have obtained Indian citizenship by fraud, by cheating the government, with false records, then your citizenship is revoked. And when you have shown disloyalty to Constitution of India, then it is revoked. When you have communicated with enemy, espionage, spying for other countries, being a citizen of India, your citizenship would be revoked. However, this is not applicable when India is in war with some other country. There are certain conditions. So this is the provision of losing of citizenship. Next we have the provision of single citizenship. So India provides for single citizenship. So whereas USA provides for double citizenship. What are the double citizenship, dual citizenship? State citizenship. Suppose you are the resident of state of California. So you will get California citizenship as well as USA citizenship, dual citizenship. That was what happening in Jammu and Kashmir before this 370 was revoked. Okay. After 370 was revoked, there is only single citizenship even in Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. So what are the benefits of having a single citizenship? So it treats every individual equally. So rich or poor, based on not based on various races, whether you are a North Indian, South Indian, Northeast Indian, whoever, everybody is equal. There is no discrimination. Okay. Next comes the provision of overseas citizenship of India. So before 2015, we had the provision of PIO and OCI. What is PIO? Person of Indian origin. Whoever is whoever father, great grandfather were, whoever's father, great grandfather are Indians, they can get the PIO card as well as OCI card, Overseas Citizen of India. So it used to lead to lot of problems. What Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi did, he merged both these provisions, both the OCI and PIO provisions were merged and said as overseas, we will give only one citizenship, that is overseas citizenship of India. So is it against the provision of double citizenship? I mean single citizenship? No. This is only for those citizens who are of Indian origin. So they don't have voting rights, they cannot contest for public offices and so many other things. So how do you register for overseas citizen of India? So there are certain provisions given that you should be of full age and capacity and having proven your origin in India. So person of Indian origin, you should prove that you are a person of Indian origin, then you will get this overseas citizenship of India by the relevant consular general or ambassadors or India's consuls, wherever it is there. So what are the rights which are conferred to this OCI? What is the benefit of having this OCI membership? There should be some rights, right? So he can come to India without visa for lifelong. Lifetime, no visa, he or she can visit India. So that is one of the benefit. However, he cannot contest for public office, become a president, vice president, judge and so many other things. And you can also renounce the OCI citizenship. Overseas citizenship of India, you can renounce that, you don't want to be a OCI. That is up to you, voluntary act. Also the government can by itself cancel the OCI provision of yours. How? If you carry out some anti-national activities, if there is sufficient proof that you have acted against the interests of India and or you have obtained OCI by means of fraud or any other things, there are certain criterions. So there was one critic of the present government in USA whose OCI card was revoked few years back. He was a person of Indian origin. OCI. His grandmother still lives in Mumbai. So since his OCI card was revoked, he was not able to come to India and his visa was also cancelled. I said there are three categories. One is NRI. Apart from PIO, OCI, there is a provision of NRI. Who are these NRIs? They are Indians. They are properly Indians. They can contest elections. They can vote in the elections. They can contest for public office. However, either for education, employment or any other purpose, they are located outside the country. They are NRIs. However, so they are as good as me and you. They can even appear for civil services exam. Whereas PI with respect to overseas citizen of India, what are the provisions? So they can. So here in your book, they have given a detailed provision of how to apply for OCI, what are the criterion to be being a OCI. So those criterions are all not so important, but what are the benefits of being a OCI? That is very, very important. So multiple entry into India without visa, no need to register with foreigners registry office, no need for police verification. You can carry out any activities in India, educational opportunities. So if you visit some monuments, wildlife sanctuaries, there is no extra fees which is charged for foreigners. So many other opportunities are there. So with respect to NRI, PIO, OCI, I have cleared the concept for you in sufficient detail. So this is the end of this chapter, I mean this section. So what we do is the important articles, as I said, with respect to this section is article 5 to 11, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. So now since it's a 2-hour class, so this was my, so all that I had planned for was for till this, but since there is some time left, so what we are going to do is we are going to cover one more concept. Tomorrow I am going to take fundamental rights and directive principles. So today we are going to discuss the last concept of the day, that is amendment of the constitution. So every constitution, if there is no provision for amendment, will become a dead and decaying constitution. So our constitutional makers were wise enough to allow certain flexible provisions in the constitution so that the constitution doesn't become old school or decayed. So our constitution is not as rigid as American constitution. So to revoke American constitution is extremely difficult. You have to form a constitutional forum and you have to take the constitution process, amendment process further. Whereas to amend the constitution in Britain is extremely easy. They don't have a written constitution. So whatever the parliament enacts, that itself becomes the constitution. So what happens is our constitution is a mix of flexibility and rigidity. Certain provisions we can amend, whereas other provisions we cannot amend. So it's a mix of both. So with respect to procedure of amendment, so the main article under this is Article 368. Very, very important article from your examination perspective. Directly they are going to ask question from this. So what does the procedure say? With respect to amendment of the constitution, first a bill will be introduced. A bill will be introduced in the, where would it be introduced? Can it be introduced in the state assembly? No. A bill should be introduced in the lower house or upper house of the parliament. And then it can be introduced, should it be introduced only by a minister, only by the government? No. Even private members can introduce the bill. Next comes, so there are various ways of passing the bill. I am going to discuss it shortly. So there is no provision for joint sitting. What is joint sitting? See, suppose if a house fails to pass a bill and the other house, that is either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, passes the bill. So this says, suppose this ensures that there is a deadlock. So to resolve the deadlock, what they do is the president convenes a joint session. Both the houses of the parliament come together and whoever has majority, whether the amendment gets majority, it would be passed. So that joint session, where is it taken from? It is taken from, the provision is taken from Australian constitution. I told it earlier. So once the amendment gets through in both the houses, it will be given to the president, after whose assent it becomes a constitutional amendment act. Here president has to give his assent to amendment, constitutional amendment, whereas with respect to ordinary bills or money bill, he can say I won't assent, or he can keep it pending. But constitutional amendment, president must give his assent. This is a special provision. So along with this, so states don't have any role in passing of the constitutional amendment. Then comes some provisions of the amendment, like GST. Enacting of the GST required the consent of the states. Likewise, some provisions of the constitution require the consent of the states. However, majority of the provisions don't require consent of the states for its amendment. So, what are the types of amendment under Article 368? So, there are three types of amendment. One is by simple majority, another is special majority, third is special majority with consent of states, plus consent of states. So these two fall under Article 368. However, simple majority is outside the scope of Article 368. So by simple majority, what are the provisions which we can amend in the constitution? So suppose I said earlier, new state is being taken into the admitted into the Indian Republic, Indian territory, simple majority. New states are being formed, Hyderabad, Telangana, Jammu and Kashmir, simple majority. And Legislative Council, Article 169, this time a question had come in UPSC mains. So that is also simple majority. Likewise, coming to rules of procedure, privileges of parliament, so many other things, by simple majority, you can amend the constitution. So by special majority of the parliament, what are the provisions by special majority? So simple majority means what? Simple majority means what? Suppose there are 545 seats in Lok Sabha, right? Suppose on a particular day, there are only 400 people who are present in the Lok Sabha, right? So out of 400, even if 201 person assents to the bill, the bill gets passed. Or else, let us take another example. Suppose there are 300 persons who are present out of 545. Even if 151, that is half mark is what? 150. So even if 151 person, that is 1 person extra from the half majority consents to the bill, it is passed. So majority of the persons present and voting, this is the term, majority of persons present and voting. If they consent to the bill, the simple majority is achieved. What is special majority? Special majority is, so it gives a caveat. What is that caveat? Majority of 2/3 of the membership of the house. 2/3 of the members present and voting. Suppose there are 300 persons. Half mark for simple majority is 150. 2/3 mark is what? 200. So special majority we should have in this case 201, not 151 as in simple majority. So 2/3 majority if a bill attains along with crossing the majority of the total membership of the house. This is the second caveat. So total membership is what? 545. Let us assume now the strength is 545. For understanding purpose, let us assume the strength is 550. What is total membership is 550. What is the majority of the 550? Let us divide it into 2. What is division by 2? 275, right? 275 is the halfway mark of the total membership. So in 275, even if 276 persons, 1 person extra consents to the bill, majority of the total membership is achieved. So both these conditions, that is 2/3 plus majority of the total membership, both has to be achieved. So 276 persons should also vote, and also 2/3 of the members present and voting. If both the conditions are achieved, special majority is achieved. So what are the provisions here? Fundamental rights, duties, directive principles, not duties, fundamental rights, directive principles, and all other provisions which are not covered by other factors can be amended here. So there is one more type, special majority with concurrence of the states. Concurrence of the states. How many states? Concurrence of half the number of states. So now how many states are there? 28. In 28, even if 14 states consent, in what majority should they consent? They should consent by simple majority. Simple majority is what I told you earlier. That is majority of the persons present and voting. Suppose Karnataka Legislative Assembly, 224. One fine day, 150% are present. To rest, 74% are in some resort. No, they are absent. So in 150, at least 75%, 75% consent, 75 plus 1 consent, then simple majority in the state assembly is achieved. So likewise, 14 states should consent to the bill along with this. So this is the most difficult amendment which the government can get assent to. So what are the provisions under this? What provisions can be amended under this? Election of president, extent of power of the union and states, that is altering the union list and state list, Supreme Court power distribution, High Court power distribution, distribution of power between legislative power, executive power between union and states. So Goods and Service Tax Council, GST Council, which was formed by GST Act 2017, and so 7th schedule, whatever provision is there, can be done under this. And also, so Article 368 itself, this can be amended only by this special majority plus concurrence of state. Article 368 can be amended in that fashion. So this is all about your amendment and its procedure. Criticism, there are criticism about amendment. What are the criticism? So they say there is no constitutional convention or special body to amend the constitution. Second criticism is, what does they say? States cannot initiate an amendment. So major part can only be amended by the parliament. So parliament dictates the states. So which is a disproportionate share of power. Next comes constitutional does not prescribe the time frame for amendment. That is also one of the criticism. There is no provision for joint sitting. That is also one of the criticism. Apart from that, what is the criticism? So the amendment process is too complex. That is also one of the criticism. So these are the criticisms with respect to amendment of the constitution. Okay. So we have spoken sufficiently about amendment of the constitution. I am going to wind up the class for today. So we are going to meet again for tomorrow, starting with fundamental rights. Hope you found the class educative, because polity is a dry subject, only deals with the provisions of the Constitution, but highly scoring subject, very mandatory in all the competitive exams. Thank you all for watching this session. Hope you make good use of it. Thank you.